All right, good afternoon. Thank you for bearing with me. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Y'all doing all right today?
Good. Thanks, Danielle.
Good. I'm well. Yeah, I'm excited. I love Power Day. Usually it's one day, but I was really grateful to be able to connect with PTK today. It's one of my favorite things as well. So thank you guys for coming. Yeah, thank you for being here. This is one of my favorite topics that I had been really wanting to do for a couple of years, but it was not fully incepted in my head. And so last year I went ahead and kind of finished it, and it's all about the positivity paradox, in the sense that there is positivity and there is optimism, and those are great tenets and values that we can have, but then there's also toxic positivity, which we're going to talk about a little bit today. That's not necessarily helpful to when someone's going through something that is legitimately sad or challenging or hard. All right, so today's agenda, I have my session agreements that I have that most of you are probably familiar with. Bless you. We're going to learn the difference between positive psychology and toxic positivity, which there are distinctions, but they get intermingled sometimes. Learn the benefits of positive psychology. And we're also going to utilize our emotional intelligence and discernment. So in all of my sessions, I like to do this. We are recording this for internal purposes. We cut out the part where there's people talking and stuff like that, just the content. But I ask of all my sessions that we have confidentiality, that this is a safe and brave space. So if there's something that you feel that you would like to share, I just ask that we are all confidential in that with whatever anyone's sharing in here. Authenticity and vulnerability as well, in that I research and I present this information to you, but I truly know that all of you are intelligent and you have things to say and things to add, so please interject at any time. Vulnerability, in that this is a space that vulnerability is a strength, and being able to express, and everything, and express how we feel in a safe space is very important to me. And then don't be a dust collector, I always say. I've been to a lot of great professional development sessions in my life, and there's these aha moments you get, and you get inspired and you get lifted up, and then you go back to your office or your house and you put what you learned on a shelf and you forget about it. And so that's why I say maybe just take one thing that you learned today and that you can actually be actionable about, that you can implement, and that can help you with your personal and professional development. Is everyone okay with all of these? Wunderbar. All right, so what I utilized for this presentation was Toxic Positivity by Whitney Goodman, Keeping Real in a World Obsessed with Being Happy. And so highly recommend it. It's a good book. It's a powerful guide to owning our emotions, even the difficult ones. And so that helps us to show up authentically in the world. How many of you have heard the phrase, fake it till you make it? Yeah, that's horrible. But I mean, yeah, sometimes if you have a tummy ache, maybe just kind of power through your presentation if you got to do it and stuff. But if you're legitimately going through something that's hard, that's challenging, it's okay to recognize that and be vulnerable. But we're also going to talk about the balance of that in the workplace as well. So yeah, we're bombarded with pressure to be positive, good vibes only, things like that. And yeah, they might help us if we're, trying to plug through something, but life is good memes, the endless advice to look on the bright side. And we're constantly told that the key to happiness is silencing that negativity whenever it crops up. And so, even when we're faced with really hard things like loss, illness, stressors in relationships and things like that, they're just oh yeah, well, it could always be worse. Okay, yeah, so that is just totally invalidating how I'm feeling or how that person's feeling in the moment, But what we're gonna do today is talk about being real so we can process these things and move forward. I like to call them liberation conversations. If any of you have any of you ever heard of Marlena Shaw? Wow. Okay. She's a 70s R&B soul, I can't even like describe her genre. We'll listen to it at the end of this session if I don't talk too much. But she has this song called Liberation Conversation. And it is really about like the civil rights movement and everything, but also about like women's rights as well. But it's so powerful. And most of the time she's just like scatting. Is that the correct term for like jazz? Yeah, like boobity bop bop. Yeah, like, you know. But it's so good, and I totally stole the title of her song for this, because when we have liberation conversations, we are taking ourselves out of these traps thinking that our feelings aren't valid. We're taking ourselves out of these moments where we're like, oh, well, nobody cares, or oh, well, you know, just fake it till you make it, just push it down. But what happens when you push something down and you keep repressing it, it's going to manifest itself later, right? It's going to one way or another just happen, and it's going to manifest itself in maybe, you know, anger and outburst towards someone. Physically, the cortisol in our body, the stress, we've talked about that before, it's getting worse and worse. And so we need to make sure to have these liberation conversations and be able to have them when we need them. It's all about being receptive of new ideas. Maybe the way that we've always done things, you know, isn't working, or maybe we need to tweak it a little. We also want to break the barriers of data about psychology and about the human experience, and be able to share new ideas and be able to give the input when we need. So this is just a quick little video. I want you to watch it, and then I would love to hear your comments. I'm going to check the volume first, because it's kind of a quiet video.
A lot know that a person can stand just about anything for 10 seconds. How are you liking my babysitter's club mystery, Sister Gretchen? I don't know, surfing, swimsuits, a woman reading a book?
Don't let him turn on the mystery crank. No one's left in days.
It's really no trouble. See, you can stand anything for 10 seconds. Then, you just start on a new 10 seconds. 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, whether you're returning a heavy crank, the purpose of which is unknown to this day, or just waiting around to open some presents, all you gotta do is take it 10 seconds at a time.
Okay. So what could be problematic with the method of taking everything 10 seconds at a time?
There's no end.
That's very true. There's no end. Yeah.
It's also very relative.
Yes.
When you put your hand for 10 seconds at a time onto a super hot surface,
Yep.
or can you just talk yourself through a difficult challenge 10 seconds at a time?
Yes. Very good.
Different tasks.
Very insightful. Anything else?
You're not really thinking ahead, you're just thinking of just the 10 seconds.
Right.
It's survival mode instead of
Yes. Yeah, absolutely survival mode. It's such a huge thing. If you haven't seen this show, it's called The Incredible Kimmy Schmidt. It's on Netflix, but has a crazy, insane premise. But she was locked in a bunker with other women for several years, and it's a comedy. But a lot of it is about like her getting out and, you know, finding the new world 15 years later, you know, as a 30-year-old versus a 15-year-old. And yeah, so she's just talking about what she did to survive, and obviously she, you know, probably needs a little therapy and, you know, help and support, but yeah, 10 seconds at a time isn't always helpful, and it's a little bit different from mindfulness, but yeah, it's definitely, you have to face it. She's totally avoiding what she's actually feeling and not really identifying it. And so I put this because I really heard the term dumpster fire a lot lately in the past couple of years, and everything was like, oh, it's a dumpster fire, and then I'm like, you know those people that can just like be like, okay, cool, it's a dumpster fire, let's make a party out of it.
Let's get some marshmallows.
Yeah. And like that's really, really positive, right? Like those type of people, they have their place. But no, it's very, very hard, because they have that, blind positivity, and they're like, it'll be fine, it could be worse. And I'm just like, stop saying that, because it just progressively has gotten worse and worse, right? And then we're literally dancing in front of a dumpster on fire. But yeah, that can be a challenge.
There you are, Danielle.
Exactly. I used to really go by that, and obviously I was like, oh yeah, it could always be worse. People would tell me, and I was like, you're right, like these are first world problems, these are not things, I'm not dying, I'm safe, and I'm like going through the hierarchy of needs, and I'm like, yeah, I can identify this, I'm safe, I have security, and just because I'm sad, it's okay, it could be worse, other people have it worse. And then there's this guilt associated with just feeling how you're feeling, and I don't know why it went full mode like that, but it doesn't always work. And I just essentially repress things until, stop it, Microsoft Teams, until it really just essentially got to the point where, I started having health issues because of stress and cortisol and all this stuff building up in my body. So toxic positivity defined is the artificial level of positive feelings 100% of the time. It tells people to stop feeling negative, and it avoids feelings of sadness, depression, as well as people expressing those emotions. So concerning development, something that this book really identifies is when toxic positivity meets the law of attraction. Who's familiar with the law of attraction?
Opposites attract.
Okay. So the law of attraction is whatever you think will become. And so it's as long as you think happy thoughts, and as long as you think this, that's going to happen. And there's a whole book about it. I think it's called The Secret, and it's a few years older, and it has, elements that are, inspiring and stuff, but it also is saying well, the only reason you're not a millionaire is because you don't think like a millionaire. And the only reason, you're in a relationship that is, unhappy is because you just keep having negative thoughts about this relationship. And it's basically guilting or shaming people into, being like, well, why don't you just think positive all the time? And there is a little bit of science behind it to yeah, when you think positive, you're going to generally be in a better mood. So you're going to be more receptive to receive, positive things, or your mind is going to be more receptive to see positive things around you. But that doesn't mean that things don't happen to us. The only thing that we can control in our lives is our personal actions. And everything around us, we can't control if someone's going to, cut us off and then we're going to slam into the back of them if they slam the brakes. That's their actions that cause that to happen. Or if a tree branch falls down on our car, those are things that it's not well, if I would just thought positive, that tree branch would have never done that. That's silly. And so combined, these two really do invalidate those emotions. And they use positivity as a device to attract desires and make people afraid to feel anything other than happy all the time. And I feel like they had good intent with The Secret and the law of attraction. It's what you think you will attract. But I think that kind of negates the human experience in that we feel different emotions at different times, and that's just who we are. And that it's valid, and really kind of facing those emotions is a little bit healthier, because it's I could feel it, and then once you're not afraid to feel it, if you keep avoiding it, what would avoidance cause for an emotion? Anxiety, right? So we have this thing lingering in the back of our head, that we're I'm not going to deal with that. I'm just going to think happy, but it's still there. It's following us, and so when we kind of face these emotions head on, we're not afraid of them. We're facing them, we're dealing with them, we're having them, come full circle or come in front of us and just be hey, I'm here. And then we deal with it. That's going to be a little bit more positive. And so this is a dangerous road when you think that, oh, happy thoughts only. It could lead to burnout. It could lead to deteriorated relationships and lower perceived self-worth, because we're why am I not happy? Why can't I think happy thoughts all the time? So here's some phrases that I have heard for toxic positivity. Feelings of sadness, fear, and anxiety aren't an enemy to be avoided. How you feel is perfectly valid, and you can allow yourself to respond to those feelings in a healthy way that helps you move forward, even if that means taking a break. And so, yeah, can y'all think of any more that you've ever heard about these types of phrases?
In religion, they say, God never gives you anything.
that you can't handle.
Oh yeah. I heard someone say that recently, and it was a different religion than the one I grew up in, and I was like, oh, you have that too? And I was like, wow, okay, so that's a common theme. Yeah, and yeah, someone always has it worse than you. That's the one, because it's like, it just invalidates your experience. And I was told that a lot when I was a kid, I was like really sad about something, and my parents, bless them, but that's just what they learned. They were just passing on what they learned. They're just like, yeah, well, there's children that are starving, so you better eat this. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And I mean, it's the perspective thing, and that's healthy, to a certain level, but you lost a beloved pet, and someone's like, well, yeah, at least you didn't lose a person. And you're like, what? That's valid that you're sad that you lost a pet or that you lost someone, and you have every right to feel what you need to feel to move forward, to grieve. Yeah, look on the bright side.
Phrase, at least.
I
think that should be
At least, yeah.
at least.
At least this
At
can
least
happen.
this can
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Involved, but
But at least you're not stupid.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and if we're prescribing to the law of attraction, yeah, if we're saying at least this isn't happening, but aren't we attracting the thing that we say, at least it's not happening? Anyways, yeah. I'm all challenging these people. They're not even here to defend themselves. I'm like, ugh, The Secret. But yeah, but that's fine. Yeah, fake it till you make it is something I heard a lot when I was a kid. And I was like, no, sometimes, because when you are really in conflicts, if you don't face the conflict, like I said, it's just going to come up later. So toxic positivity is this obsession with positive thinking and the belief that people should put a positive spin on everything, even when it's profoundly tragic. Once again, yeah, one of these, making comparisons and parallels to our own lives and experiences. Sometimes that's good, and sometimes it can make the person feel like, oh, okay, so my experience right now doesn't matter because it's happened to you before.
I lost a child too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why did you say that?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, saying it and really reframing it in a way and be like, I know where you're coming from. I've experienced this as well, but everyone's experience is different. And, there's this lady that, y'all know Saturday Night Live? Have you all heard of that? Yeah. Kristen Wiig plays this girl that she has to compare herself to everyone. And she was just like, oh, yay, your ring from your fiance is so pretty. And she's like, my ring is bigger. And yeah, it's a blood diamond. Yeah. And I mean, and it's just this comparison thing. And sometimes people do this to relate, which I totally get. They want to relate to you, and they're like, oh yeah, that's happened to me as well and everything. That can be a relator sometimes, but just really be cognizant of the experience. Maybe you can share that later when they're not in such a state of grief, or when they're not such a state of stress or loss. Sometimes you're like, I don't know, I cannot relate. And maybe it's a cultural or social difference. And then sometimes when someone comes to you with something and you use toxic positivity, you're overstressed, overworked, you have compassion fatigue and the lack of empathy, that can happen to us all. But it is okay not to have an answer or solution to someone's problem. You're not responsible for anybody else like their feelings. And when they're like a baby child, you're responsible for them, you know, if they're your kid, because, you know, you decided to have them, so you should probably keep them alive. But for people that you're relating to, your friends, your relationships, it's important to take ownership if you made them feel that way, but you're not responsible for how they feel. But the beauty in that is that sometimes you can say, you know, that sounds terrible. That's when you can utilize empathy. And, you know, I'm sorry that you're going through this. That somebody always has it worse. You have so much to be thankful for. Your struggles are valid, and you don't have to apologize or justify how you're feeling. Guilt is hard. Guilt is something that you learn in so many different ways. You learn it from the environment you grew up in. You maybe learn it through religion or the religious group that you're a part of. A lot of women, I think, you know, feel guilt for validating their emotions a little bit more so sometimes, because we're told that, you know, we're the ones that have to be strong and hold it together. A lot of men too. So you don't have to apologize or justify for what you're feeling. Who's heard of masking? Yeah. So this unconscious or conscious effort to hide and cover one's own self from the world as an attempt to accommodate others and to coexist more peacefully. So research and anecdotal evidence show that an extensive amount of masking and passing is going on among women and girls, primarily because excuse me, the way women are socialized. And this can happen with anyone. But a lot of times the research shows that girls and women have been taught from an early age to blend in, according to researchers. And like I said, this can work for anyone. But yeah, masking is just, you get really good at faking it till you make it. But you just really never get to that end point, right? You're not getting to that end point where you actually made it. You're just continually faking it, and you get really good at that. And sometimes when a neurodivergent individual is really good at masking, they're not going to even be diagnosed or get any help for what they're going through, because they've masked it so well, even though they're like going home and they're just completely depleted, completely exhausted. But you know, they've learned how to, you know, behave in a way that is like, oh, you're a pleasure to have in class, you know. Have you ever heard that? Okay, but you're like, I was struggling, I was super stressed, I was like sweating because I was like, oh my gosh, what if they call on me and I don't know the answer? You know, that kind of thing, that kind of anxiety. But masking is a really real thing that all of us at one point or another have probably practiced. I've said this a million times to y'all before, but stress is the gap between capacity and demands. It is okay to acknowledge, especially to yourself, when you are stressed. You can be able to handle it and be able to do what you need to do to help solve it. We talked a little bit about masking, but like neurodivergence, in that everyone experiences this world in a different way. We express ourselves in a different way, and we have different manifestations for how our emotions come out. And honoring that, and like we were talking about a second ago, oh yeah, I've been through that as well. Yeah, maybe you have been through a similar situation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're experiencing it in the same way, or you have different capacities of how you can handle that and experience that. So neurodivergence is something that I'm a huge champion of, and I think is just really beautiful when we could connect with that. So yeah, toxic positivity is also false reassurance. And it's setting a false belief or hope that no matter how difficult the situation is, they should hold on to the positive thoughts. And it's usually given at the wrong time, and it makes someone feel bad, so it gets annoying too, and you're like, oh, well, I won't come to that person again for help. You know, and it could either be self-imposed or given by someone else, and you can pretend everything's fine when you really are struggling, and that's harmful to yourself. And what really can help with toxic positivity is to embrace negative feelings as part of you and as normal. So we have a quick little video on this. I think this one has better captions. So.
Positive vibes only may sound like a good mantra for life, but sometimes positivity isn't a positive thing. There is such a thing as toxic positivity, and it's what we're talking about in today's mental health lesson. When we try to talk about our worries, stresses, or how we're feeling down and are just told to stay positive or look on the bright side, this can encourage us to push down our emotions. So, although these messages are meant to be helpful, you can actually come away feeling worse.
Toxic positivity is a form of gaslighting, and it involves minimizing and dismissing someone's experience or emotion. It's providing them with false reassurance instead of empathy. The person may be well intentioned doing this, but if done continually, it will undermine a person's sense of reality, a person's perception.
The more this happens, the more our own self-talk will be affected by this as well. You may think that there's something wrong with you for being down, feel pressure to always seem happy and hide any other feelings, but this isn't healthy for our mind.
Toxic positivity is bad for our mental health because it is dismissing and minimizing our own experiences and emotions. There's nothing wrong with having a positive outlook or viewing things as the glass half full, but toxic positivity is being positive at all costs, even in the face of a difficult situation. It is denying what we are experiencing and denying our own emotions.
People often try to label emotions as good or bad. When we feel joy, we let that emotion come with excitement, but we'll often push away emotions like sadness or fear. But in truth, there are no good or bad emotions. They're all a normal part of life.
We need to be able to recognize what we're feeling, to be able to name that emotion. And that sounds simple, doesn't it? But for a lot of people where emotions weren't discussed in their home, it is like learning a new language. It is a crucial skill to be able to learn, to be able to name and express what emotion I'm feeling. And we all have an emotional brain, but our emotions are felt in the body. So even to be able to separate out some emotions, am I feeling guilt or shame? Am I feeling jealous or envy? When we are able to get in touch with ourselves and be able to express ourselves, we are able to move through that emotion.
If you want to give somebody else a safe space to share what they're going through instead of jumping to be positive, try, "I'm listening. How can I best support you?" If you feel like you need support, please contact your local mental health services.
So yeah, any thoughts on that video? It's so much more succinct than Danielle, so I appreciate that.
I love that she identified it as a form of gaslighting, because we all understand that gaslighting is
Yeah,
very harmful.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. Any more thoughts? Yeah, it's so important, like you said, and like, yeah, it really is gaslight. It's like, oh, because it's just like, you're like, okay, I'm coming to this person, I'm trusting them with how I'm feeling, and they're just like, always look on the bright side, and it's like, they're just like pouring water on your flame, or, of like, optimism or hope. So yeah, so let's do a little activity. I have a worksheet for you guys. It's not a big worksheet, I promise. So with a partner or on your own, I think we'll do partners. You can work with groups of 2 or 3, whatever works for you. Let us look at some of these phrases that we've talked about, and I want you to utilize these components when you're reframing these phrases to something that's supportive. So I want you to validate how the person is feeling, listen, be real, and express hope. Okay? And so I'm going to pass these out. There are just on this worksheet, there's certain scenarios that each person is going through, and then this is the toxic positivity phrase that the person they're talking to has decided to communicate to them, and I want you to just reframe that and create a different phrase. Okay? All right, let's come back together, y'all. Thank you guys for doing that activity. All right, so I appreciate y'all's conversations. I would love to just kind of go through these and just hear what some of you guys came up with. So the first scenario is a colleague is stressed about their workload, and someone tells them to suck it up, Buttercup. Yeah. So what did you guys reframe for that? Anyone like to share? Yeah, Dean.
I'm hearing you're over capacity right now. Perhaps you could delegate some of what's on your plate. Is there any way I can?
Oh, I love that. Very good. Snaps for Dean. I like to make people snap. I don't know why. Yeah, because I don't do that often. Good job. All right, anybody else? Anybody else come up with a different reframing for that?
I know Dean knows the story. The spoons, right? Where you don't have enough spoons to do. Sounds like you've run out of spoons.
Ooh.
How can I offer a spoon?
I love that. Yeah, that's very true. Run out of spoons.
Run out of spoons.
Good. Thank you.
We kind of focused on listen. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to vent, and then you can go back. And so
That's beautiful.
we kind of really kind of hone down on sometimes just make sure you're listening to the person.
Thank you for that. Listening is so important. And, you know, I've been guilty of that too. Like, sometimes I'm just waiting for my turn to talk. Like, I'm really excited about something. And, like, or like I'm talking about otters because I love otters. And, like, I'm like, blah, 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 otters, 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 otters. And someone's like, oh, yeah, I really like lions. And I'm just like,
No, back to otters.
Yeah, like, come on, back to otters. But, like, so I'm like, I'm not even listening to their cool facts about lions. But I try not to do that. But, like, yeah, when you can actually listen and be more present, it's very helpful. So thank you guys for sharing that. All right, so a colleague or a student is suffering from a chronic or serious illness, and someone says, it could always be worse. What did you guys come up with? Yeah.
I'm really sorry you're going through this. Is there any way that I can help you?
Beautiful. Very simple. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Came up with, I can't imagine how it's hard for you. Don't lose hope. We're here for you.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love that. Thank you. Any more? Yeah.
I didn't play, but
that's okay.
I've always found that if you say, how can I help? Instead of let me know if you need any help.
Yes.
If you're waiting for an answer, they're more likely to give you one.
That's so smart. Very good. Thank you.
I tell kids that. When I come in the door, you say, how can I help you? Great, set the table.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. All right. So someone, a colleague or a student, or someone is just having a bad day and doesn't want to elaborate. And you just tell them, fake it till you make it.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere now.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's expressing hope a little bit. All right. Anybody else? Yeah.
I appreciate you being vulnerable with me. Let's discuss upcoming workload so we can assess what's best for you at this time.
That's beautiful, Dean. Thank you. Yeah.
That's exactly like they say. How do you professionally say?
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Natalie usually worked on both.
There you go.
Love that. Very good. Yeah. Someone who suffered a loss, everything happens for a reason.
I'm sorry, but if someone said that to me, I think I would lose it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, that is valid. Yeah, absolutely.
And what would that reason be?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I have heard the phrase, you know, like, oh, it was just their time, or, you know, God just needed another angel, and, you know, stuff like that. You're like, whew, cringe-o. Okay. Yeah. So, like, yeah, what would we say instead of that? Or what could we do instead of that? Because we remember, we don't always have to say something.
I'm sorry.
Exactly. Just your presence and saying, I'm sorry. Yeah. Like, yes.
I think it's important to recognize they might need time to process it, and they might, especially if they're a colleague or somebody who might feel like they don't have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
So saying, in the same way you mentioned saying, how can I help versus let me know if I can, I think saying, you know, I understand if you need time to process, I'm here for you, helps them know that it's okay for them to take that time and space.
That's so true. I don't know why you said that. That like really touched my heart. I'm like teary, but like, yeah, it's so true. Because like, grief is not the 3 days that, as you know, as people that, you know, work in the United States get 3 days off for grief, like for a loss. What? like, what? Yeah, like, that's insane. Grief is going to be an ongoing process, and it's going to be something that can manifest its way through the rest of our lives as a loss, and that is so valid. And yeah, like you said, I would lose it if someone was like, oh yeah, everything happens for a reason. I'd be like, yeah, this is about to happen. Yeah, I don't punch people, but yeah.
Trip over my foot.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll add something to that.
Yeah, please.
I've had a loss this year.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And I've heard a lot of things, but it helps me. So this is coming from the other person. I have to remember where they're coming from, and most of the time they're just coming. They don't know.
Sure.
Back to that.
Sure.
I don't know what to do. I can't relate, and they just. So if I catch myself before I go off or something.
Yeah.
The best thing, again, goes back to the listen.
Yeah.
You know, just let them talk, let them lead.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Those are the interactions that have been most beneficial.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what to say, just don't say anything. Just let them lead.
But it's okay to ask a follow-up question.
Yeah.
See if they want to keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, how can I help? I think that, yeah, if, they're in this space, like, when you're ready, how can I help and stuff like that.
And then the other thing is multiple attempts.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't respond the first
Thank
time,
you. Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they never want you to.
Sure.
Just were over.
Yeah. Someone was saying, like, the mind space of, like, they may need time. Yes.
That's what you said.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You have to sit there with them. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people avoid because they don't know what to say. And that's even worse, right? Like, when you lose someone, it feels like you forget them, and like other people have forgotten them.
Yeah.
It's really helpful to say when you feel able. I would love you to share some of your favorite stories that you shared with that person or with that animal, or to help them keep the memory alive and validate.
Yes. My best friend in the whole wide world, she lost her husband last year, and it was terrible. It was a really hot day in the summer, and the coroners were not able to arrive there like for 8 or 9 hours. And so we were all just like sitting out on the lawn with her, and like I remember I had this Buc-ee's scrunchie, and I didn't even remember it at the time until she sent me a picture months later. But like I had like pulled up her hair because I was just like, girl, just like stop, like you're sweaty or like miserable. And like she like sent me this scrunchie, and like she was the picture of it, and she was like, remember? And I was like, no. And she didn't. I just wanted to sit with her and just like be with her and be able to like, I didn't have anything to say. I didn't have any words. I have not had a loss like that, and so I was not in the position to say that. I just was like, I'm just gonna like mourn with her and like be with her in this space. And a lot of like her family was there as well, and like it was. I don't want to ever relive that day again, but it was very beautiful that we were able to validate how everyone was feeling and be together. Yeah. All right. And so, yeah, no more good vibes only for those types of things. Thank you guys for doing that. I appreciate it. And like I said, it's okay to not know what to say. And when we're going through things like that, and even if we don't know what to say, when, even if we have an opinion in our head that maybe pops up and it's like, that's not so bad, or like, why are they so upset? And it's like, we don't know. That's where empathy comes in. We don't know what's going on. So try to put ourselves in their shoes and be like, they're genuinely feeling bad about something. And I want to, understand and empathize with them. So yeah, what differences did we notice in the phrases that we reframed? Just simple.
There was more empathy and less problem solving.
Yes.
Instead of, I'm going to take this and make it better, it's validating how someone feels in that moment of time.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
It's more listening and offering of assistance.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Any more? Okay.
More compassion.
More compassion. Yeah. Thank you.
It took more time.
It does take more time. Yeah. But time is the precious gift that we can offer to someone who is struggling in any way. Yeah. And, at work, we're not always able to be like, okay, like just set aside your work and sit down for 3 hours. That And then, you know, even in some spaces, you know, we're just not always able to do that, right? But we employ of how we empower each of our colleagues in at least our space, the space that I work in, to be able to just say, you know, I'm feeling really sad today. I'm just letting y'all know I'm not ready to talk about it, but this is how I'm feeling. And that's really important. And if they want to share, we usually give them like 60 seconds. Not if it's like a huge loss or something, but like if they're struggling through something through the day, and it's like, here's your time, and saying, this is the situation, this is what's going on. And all we have to say is like, thank you for sharing. You know, and that way we know to be cognizant of how that person is feeling at work, because that's called the sachet method. I have a micro learning on it. I'm just plugging myself, but like it's very, very helpful because it also teaches us that, like, yeah, we truly, I think some of us at Lone Star and most of us at Lone Star, everyone I come across, we're all the most empathetic people in the world. You know, we want to help, we want to support, and that's beautiful, but sometimes we might get a little overwhelmed with helping people because we're going through our own stuff, and we get what's called compassion fatigue, and we also need to protect ourselves a little bit from secondhand trauma. I used to work at a shelter for women and children, and there was this one resident there that they were always like coming to my office and just telling me these like horrific things, and I wanted to be there, but like I actually wasn't the counselor, you know, I was like, you know, the volunteer director. So I was like, yeah, and I was very young, I was in my early 20s, and I just was not fully ready and equipped to like handle all of that like in a professional way, because I was like, how do I fix this? How do I help them? Turns out a lot of what this person was saying weren't even true. They just unfortunately were just trying to, you know, get some help where they weren't receiving it. I guess they didn't have that trust built with their counselors. But yeah, but like that secondhand trauma was real. Like they were telling me all this abuse and things that they were going through, and I would just leave work and just cry and cry and cry. And I was just like, what can we do? We're doing it all wrong. Like we need to fix it and stuff like that. But it's really important, and I think even in like a counselor or, you know, in that professional realm, you know, to, you know, have boundaries too, because we got to protect ourselves sometimes. Yeah, we want to sit with someone, of course, a loved one and stuff that's going through a loss or something that's really hard, but we need to kind of discern the difference of like when our capacity is full and being like, I am absolutely here for you, but just at this moment, like I need a little bit of space, like can I help you in some other way, and stuff like that. That gets really deep, a little bit more than my expertise would be able to allow, but I do have stuff on that as well. But empathy is what we've really talked about, and that's the main goal. I can imagine what this pain feels like. We have recently, all of us, done some emotional agility work in our Wellness Wednesdays, and so you might be familiar with that. But there are different types of empathy. There's the ability to respond to other people's emotions appropriately, which is effective empathy. Somatic empathy is to feel what another person is feeling, and then finally cognitive empathy is the ability to understand someone's response to a situation. And so that is a big challenge sometimes, because it's going a step further and saying, okay, I know that you're going through this situation, and maybe we think they're overreacting. But empathy and that cognitive empathy is saying, hey, I don't have the same sets of experiences and stressors that this person has gone through. And so that way I can understand that they might be coming from a place that this is going to be a lot harder on them than it is on me or someone else. So I have one little final thing I want to leave you with. Y'all seen this show? It's so cute. It's called Inside Out.
Of course it stops loading.
Oh my gosh.
Verizon, get their crazy powerful network out here and get 6 months of Disney Bundle on them. Stream with 6 months of Disney Bundle on us.
If you want to watch Inside Out, I think it's a Disney movie, so you can watch it if you purchase this Disney Bundle.
Hey, it's gonna be okay. We can fix this. Just need to get back to headquarters.
trip planned for us.
Hey, ticklish, huh? Here comes the tickle monster. Hey, Mom, look at this. Oh, here's the fun game. You fly to the train station and we all go there. Won't that be fun? Come on, let's go to the train station.
I'm sorry you took your life. You took something that you loved. It's gone.
Sadness. Don't make him feel worse.
It's all I left with Riley. Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back in time, we had breakfast twice that day.
Sadness. Sounds amazing. But Riley loved it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
All right, really powerful. What did y'all notice in that quick scene?
Instead of trying to divert, this one came in and just said, I'm sorry. I know it was something you loved that you lost.
Absolutely. What else?
Sad, let him be sad.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that was really easy, just letting them be sad. Joy was trying to like divert and being like having that toxic positivity, like, hey, you ticklish? Like, okay. Yeah, no, it was like, it wasn't helping because they weren't receiving that. But like, yeah, when you just like sit with someone, and like you said, it takes more time, but when you sit with someone and empathize, that's gonna make all the difference. So I just wanted to talk about a little bit before we go, how to deal with these feelings and emotions, when we also need to cultivate self-compassion. And that is so important. Part of what can be dangerous about positivity, the toxic positivity, is the expectations that it creates on us. And so self-compassion can be a good antidote to it. Be nice to yourself and be compassionate with yourself when you're having negative emotions or going through hard times. No one can be positive all the time. And that's valid and that's important because, yeah, sometimes, you know, we're just not going to feel it. And it could be, we've talked about in our last sessions about like cortisol and stress and like that and all those different things happening. Some days we're going to be able to handle it better than other days. You know, we're going to have different experiences that's going to make it harder or easier. And I think like nothing is more self-compassionate than a puppy, so I just put a puppy there. Yeah. Don't discount your emotions. We shove our negative emotions down. We fail to get the benefits they provide at times when we are in our most need of those benefits. And that's why sometimes excessive positivity can be toxic. Welcome your emotions and don't be afraid of them. You know, everyone's feelings are unique. Recognize that it's okay to experience these negative emotions. And if you recognize that someone may be using that to cope with their negative emotions, encourage them to speak freely and share what's actually going on with them. Is really helpful when that happens. And then I will give you all a copy of this as well. I am skipping a little because I went over time because of our technical difficulties, but finally, just be mindful and give your undivided attention and avoid judgment. But just as much as you can do this for someone else, you can do that for yourself. Just sit in the moment with yourself, give your attention to how you're feeling, and don't judge yourself for how you're feeling. Feeling it and then like understanding why you're feeling it can really help you get to the root of it and move forward. Or make a plan. If it's like grief or loss or something that's so complicated, you know, you're not going to be like, okay, I'm going to feel this for 5 seconds and I'm going to move on. That's not going to happen. But just acknowledge that it's okay that you're feeling that way. And that's just the most important part. All right. it is okay ultimately to accept and get help. There are resources we have here. If you're finding yourself if you're like, okay, I'm validating my feelings and I've been sad for a year now, maybe you should seek some help, because it's good to have those different perspectives. We desperately need that human connection in whatever capacity that works for us. If you are using some type of substances to cope with stress, anxiety, and depression, mental health support can be a great resource for that. And then just finally, the honor system. Once again, for ourselves and for others, we want to validate, we want to listen, be real, and express hope. And then just honor in ourselves and others the fluidity of each life and accept the spectrum of emotions we will all experience. All right, guys, thank you. Oh, snaps. Yay! Thank you guys for coming. This is just scratching the surface on all of these topics, because it's an hour, and we could have full day workshops and weeks on all these things. But I thank you for coming to. I think this is the last. This is the last PTK Wellness of the semester. Yeah, but I know we'll continue it in different ways. I hope we can grow and learn. And I think Wellness Wednesdays, we just want to get them bigger, right? We want to get more people to help. We want it to not just be me. And so yeah, let's meet up and let's connect. And like all of us, let's see what could work for us. Let's incorporate some kinesiology into it. Let's make it exciting. And just thank you guys for listening to me ramble. And I'm so grateful for the time that I've had with all of you. I'm not leaving, but I'm just I'm just feeling grateful. Yeah, I'm just really thankful for you guys. So thank you for being here.